Grand Rising. See, I'm not very good. Grand Rising. I think it's just going to be basically true Brit news with sprinklings of, well, Brit news. Oh, and why somebody needs me to be dumb, wrong, or stupid with a sprinkling of those flavours over arc when the time comes. And that time is rapidly approaching, where at the very least consideration need to be had about on a great many topics and issues. I got a on a Saturday. Well, I'm just noticing some building work going on a Saturday, which is kind of unusual. I get a sense of urgency about a great many things. Oh God, it's all making sense. Anyway, the urgency that I'm sensing today, that is kind of starts to pull things together, or brings some clarity to thoughts, feelings, events, past and present, history, past and present, past. Anyway, so the tide is rising in regards to who the indigenous and aboriginal are on the one hand, and also who is responsible for all the wars and conflicts, the death, the destruction, the rape and pillage and carnage, and the carnage created, and the impacts that it has had on psychological, emotional, relational, spiritual, for generations, impacts it's had on women, children, who's responsible for all of that for the last, depending on your point of view, 6,000 years, 600 years, 2,000 years, 250 years of the people that are considered the ruling elites to be ruling over those time periods that I've just mentioned, for them to have organised themselves under the guise of equality and democracy and equity under one God or many gods, for truth, justice and the pursuit of happiness to be a mantra, for them to do the complete fucking opposite. I've been saying it for a while. Let me just say this before I go any further. and then to dispute the heavens, to put themselves in the place of gods on earth. And I do believe that they were doing the bidding of their God. But part of the scheme for these people that claim to be the ruling elite, and that have been ruling for, again, 6,000, 2,000, 600, 400, 250 years. Minimum. If it's 250 years, look at what they've done in those 250 years. It's not 250 years at all. They've been wrecking the joint for 6,000 years. These ruling elites have worked diligently to get the world to where it is right now, here in 2025. So it's that whole structure, it seems, the whole paradigm, the philosophies, the ideas, the concepts, the narratives, the stories, the lies that have been told to maintain the structure and the systems, the minds, that can bring us to where we are in 2025 across the globe, has now become unbearable for the descendants of those, of that bloodline, if you will, the descendants of those that are now experiencing that which they have been informed about. They've been informed thusly, not for the last 4 years, last 5 years, not for the last 10 years, not for the last 50 years, not for the last 100 years, but at the very least for the last 250 years, that this was time, and what you would do, no, not so much this time, but what you were doing was not okay. The ideas, the philosophy that you were using, that the descendants of the the ruling elite and the ruling elite themselves that are still around today with their conspirators and complicitors, and those that have complied with it, even though they knew it to be wrong, and now beginning to feel the heat, as I say, and are struggling, it seems, I'm back on track now, struggling, it seems, to be accepting of the consequences of, this is me just because it's can't find the words, for being bitches all this while. And now, not everywhere, not all the time, but you're hearing it more and more, those people that have been bitches are now wanting the help and support and understanding and forgiveness of the people that they, as beneficiaries of the ruling elites for maybe 6,000 years, 2,000 years, 600 years, 500 years, 250 years of their philosophy, outlook, thinking, dispossession, their murder and trafficking, enslavement, persecution of people, or of people that have done you no harm. But you have benefited. So, and I say, these people that I'm talking about, they're not all don't presume that I'm talking exclusively about white Europeans or pale-skinned people or the descendants and those that consider themselves to be Ashkenazi Zionist Jews, because they're not all pale-skinned. Some of them look like me, believe. It's like it's got a gust of wind there. That these glasses are darken really muchly. A nice shade of blue. So yeah. Not panning out in the way that I imagined it would do, and I hope it continues to pan out the way that it is, because it's just gentle, it's thought-provoking. What the it that I'm talking about panning out is how people are responding to the Great Awakening of people like me knowing who they are, learning that they are indigenous and aboriginal. I'm going to talk specifically about the here on these islands, that the corporate entity that is ruling, that is governing, that is has usurped ownership of the United Kingdom. That's the space that I'm talking from. Now, historically on these islands, you see, I need to say something actually, because I'm drawing on information, I'm drawing on the experience, and my observation of what's going on in the States and going on in the Americas, and what's happening, what's claimed to be happening politically, geopolitically, and what's going on in the Americas, but globally as well. So deportations is what I'm talking about essentially. Ones in America and what it's brought up, and also sort of going over a few documents, if you like the executive orders that Trump signed, and that have led to the deportations taking place, and why it appears that there is no legal recourse for people doing illegal shit. You know, it's not rocket science, and people are getting really bent out of shape But as they're getting bent out of shape, it's exposing some other anomalies, discrepancies. It's showing up hypocrisies. It's showing up double standards, a little bit like two-tier policing here in the UK. So the notion of two-tier policing, the reason why you don't hear black people, so-called black people, screwing about it is because there is nothing new to us. As I've said in my previous cast, I'm not trying to get too fucking annoyed about it, but I'm annoyed about it because everybody seems to have forgotten about it, and despite that, it's going to flip back to the Americans. And despite the Americans going through that, the black, so-called black Americans, the indigenous and aboriginal, that's why they were treated like that, because they were who they were. Everybody knew it except them, and it wasn't just getting shot in your car, shot in your bed by people that are meant to be serving and protecting. It goes back further, way further than that. You know, the slavery, the indentured servitude, what was going on then? Okay, what was been going on, what the experiences have been of Dane Calloway refers to the indigenous and aboriginal, broadly speaking, okay, I'm saying, and I might have got this wrong, not necessarily right, the Niji, or the people of Turtle Island, because that was his original name. That's the name that they gave themselves, rather than, you know, America is the name given to the people and the land that Christopher Columbus et al. When they got there, that's the name, that's what they chose to call it, and it is based upon some of the languages that they found when they got there. Once they're able to translate and communicate, and then they just retranslated it into something that was going to be palatable for their narrative and the subsequent stories that they tell to support the reason of or how the West was won. You know, how the founding fathers came to be the founding fathers. They weren't the founding they probably weren't the founding fathers, if that makes sense, because people were in the Americas way before 1492. There was contact with Europe way before that, a long time before that, when Europe was indeed melanated. There's contacts. Anyway, so that's part of the history, if that makes sense. That's part of the awakening. That's part of the history that's not been told, that's been hidden by the ruling elite and their descendants up to today. The ruling elite, once they've gained power, it's hard to say when that was, but you know, let me just say that the Boer War and the First World War, that was all about people scrabbling for power, and as they're scrabbling for power, gaining power, power dynamics shifting and changing, they're rewriting a narrative at the same time. And maybe they weren't shifting and changing, it's just giving the impression of it shifting and changing, but everybody was on one accord, much in the same way, in my view, that the migration that we see into the UK is organised. We can quite clearly see that it is, and been organised since day one, including the Windrush transportations. I'm calling them transportations because it wasn't necessarily a migration. It's commonly understood. If you ask the right questions within GPT, you can ask it not to lie as well, and it will take that into account. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it will tell you that there were black people here way before Windrush, and the first Windrush transportations took place before, well, in the middle of the Second World War. 1943, I think the first lot came over, and they were coming over as pilots or airmen, army. When my mum came to the UK, or Britain as it was called when she got here, she went to stay with her uncle who was in the army. Jesus Christ. I think there's something going on the road and the bus nearly came up on the pavement. Man, wouldn't that... Yes, I know. Can you imagine for some that would have been delightful. But hopefully if they'd have found my phone and seen the last moments of my doings, of my existence on this plane. Yeah, I think that might have been a bit of a... Anyway, that shook me up a little bit. Can you imagine myself pushing double-decker bus off myself? Right, so yes, from up to 22, oh well, I'm going to leave it 3 more minutes, okay. So, I remember doing some posts a few years back where I was talking about every man, woman and child will have to confess their own. We're going to come into a time when good people will have to do terrible things to terrible people. I'll have to thank Rod Hayes for both those two. And the other one that's about to come has probably got something to do with him too. And, which is connected to, both those terms are connected to atonement. To become at one. To, and in some, it's got many meanings. It's got at least 8, atonement. I go ask you to go check it out. Because that's one of the things that I suspect, I can see that right now, that we're in that process of all of those 3. I think people are really struggling to, or they're trying to find ways to forgive themselves for what it is that they have ignored deliberately, because you've been informed thusly, at least for the last 5 years, about what's been going on in the world and around you, and you've said nothing all that while. So took a risk there. I need to stop doing that. I'm still on this road. So, people are struggling with it because I suppose we haven't been groomed, or we have been groomed well enough not to do introspection. Reflection. To be reflexive as human beings. We are a psychotherapist, but again, that's a kind of like, I suppose it's a bit of a guild in some respects. We're not supposed to give away the knowledge and secrets. Well, we are. Well, I do. I'm not interested in keeping people in therapy when they don't need to be. If I can give them the one thing that's going to help them to sort the reasons out why they've come into therapy in the first place, absolutely fantastic. Give it. And this is the kind of society that we're in at the moment. We're not interested in that. We know we've got the keys to the kingdom, we've got the knowledge, everything, but it's held in secret places by people who keep secrets and will do anything to keep the secret away from the people that need the secrets to be told, that need the truth. So that's great. 25:54, 20 more minutes. Till the next time, may your ERP, your spirituality remain strong.